وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين. أما بعد، يقول أمير المؤمنين لأخيه عقيل: يا عقيل، انظر لي امرأة قد ولدتها الفحولة من العرب، ليتزوجها فتولد لي غلاما فارسا ينصر الحسين في طف كربلاء. Inshallah, tonight, taking this statement as a beginning notion. Many of us, when discussing Al Baneen, you'll find if we discuss Al Baneen, there are many people that will not have more than 4 or 5 stories that are related towards Al Baneen. As an example, this particular statement from Amir al-Mu'mineen towards his brother Aqil is one of them, saying that, you know what, Aqil was the person that gave the opinion to Amir al-Mu'mineen. That's one story. Another story could come forward when we discuss, let's say, when Abu Fadl Abbas was first born, taking that perspective of Al Baneen, that she gave birth towards an Abbas, and she asks Amir al-Mu'mineen when he kisses the hands of Abu Fadl Abbas, why do you kiss the hands, as another story. And the third story, arguably, would be the one where after Karbala, as the caravan would enter Medina, you'll find a poet that comes forward and he narrates the incidents of Karbala, and this lady by the name of Al Baneen comes again. But other than that of her life, how many of us can say that we know 1, 2, 3, or 4 more than these particular stories about Al Baneen? And then we begin to understand that, hold on, the Ahlul Bayt have Al Baneen in such a high regard. Why is it that we, as followers of Ahlul Bayt, when discussing such an important personality, are not able to produce, are not able to tell or explore stories besides these handful about this great leader? Now, when analyzing the life of Al Baneen, many of us won't even know her birth date, her death date. The only thing we know about her is that her name was Fatima, and she changed the name because she saw how much it affected the children of Amir al-Mu'mineen. When Fatima, the name was mentioned within the household, they said, do not name me Fatima anymore, lest I see the hurts within the faces of these children of Rasulullah. Therefore, call me Al Baneen, the mother of children. Now, if we were to take this perspective, because there's so many different secrets that we can gain just from analyzing her life, her birth, her date. Example, there are 2 different varied traditions about the birthday of Al Baneen. The first says that she was born 5 years before the Hijrah, and the other one says she was born 5 years after the Hijrah. You know, the migration from Mecca towards Medina. One says 5 before, one says 5 after. Now look at the difference that it makes. Now we know without a shadow of doubt, Al Baneen died 1 year after Hijrah, that we commemorate. 64 years after Hijrah, Al Baneen passes away. Now, taking that into perspective, either it falls into 59 to 60 years that she died, or 69 to 70 that she died. Now, if we were to take this into perspective, if we were to say that she was born 5 years before Hijrah, and Amir al-Mu'mineen married her in accordance to that tradition 12 years after Hijrah, 1 year after the passing or the demise of Fatima al-Zahra. But Abu Fadl Abbas was born which year? 27 after Hijrah, wasn't he? Dies in Karbala at what age? Who knows? Abu Fadl Abbas, how old was he when he died in Karbala? 34 in the majority of traditions that are acceptable. Born 27 years after Hijrah. So now, Al Baneen, if she's married 12 years after Hijrah, Abu Fadl Abbas comes into existence 27 years after Hijrah. There's a massive 15 years there, isn't it? It's not really common for someone to go 15 years without producing a child and all of a sudden has 4. The second opinion comes forward and suggests, no, she was born 5 years after Hijrah. If she's born 5 years after Hijrah, therefore Amir al-Mu'mineen married her 24 years after Hijrah, making her age 19 to 20. Now, the beauty there is where? Because once you analyze this, there are particular secrets. The first of which, it means if Ul Baneen was born 5 years after Hijrah, who else in the family or the household of Rasulullah was also born 5 years after Hijrah? Who knows? Of the household of Amir al-Mu'mineen, with the birthday 5 years after Hijrah, was the lady of patience, Zainab al-Kubra. Now we take this into perspective. Sayyidah Zainab, now we need to analyze, is the same age roughly as Al Baneen. When Al Baneen has Abu Fadl Abbas, same age roughly. The understanding there in this particular household, there are scholars that come forward and say that when Abu Fadl Abbas was born, Al Baneen was sort of a servant for the house. When Abu Fadl Abbas is born, Zainab takes a particular attraction to him. Her love, her affection, her heart was affected by this child. The scholars come forward and say that after this particular period, it was very common that the eldest would raise a child, wouldn't they? So now if we begin to analyze these things and put the dots together, Zainab wasn't just a sister, was she now? Same age as the mother. When Abu Bakr Abbas takes Sayyidah Zainab towards Karbala, it's not Zainab just my sister, no. Zainab is a motherly figure for me, Abbas, because she raised me at a younger age. Showcasing the level that you begin to understand and the dimensions about this relationship between Abu Fadl Abbas and Sayyidah Zainab, just by analyzing the dates in which they were born and in which they died. But now this particular statement that comes forward, the one that we need to analyze, and it's going to be the main discussion for tonight, inshallah, is many of us would come across this statement. Amir al-Mu'mineen goes towards his brother Aqil and asks him, "Oh Aqil, find me a lady that the greatest or the highest of the characteristics of the Arabs gave birth to, so I may marry her, so she will give me a child." Why? In order for him to be a support for my son in Karbala. Thirdly, Faris gives birth to a Faris. Now, this statement, we're going to analyze three things tonight. The first of which, understanding the knowledge of Amir al-Mu'mineen. We all understand the knowledge of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Why is it that a personality such as Amir al-Mu'mineen that has knowledge, I mean, just think about it. One of his, let's say, disciples or his companions is known as Rushayd al-Manaya wal Balaya. This person wasn't Amir al-Mu'mineen, was a companion of Amir al-Mu'mineen. What happens? He used to have knowledge of who will die, when, and how. So this person has this particular knowledge. He was a student of Amir al-Mu'mineen, a companion of Amir al-Mu'mineen, that Amir al-Mu'mineen bestowed knowledge upon. He has this knowledge. What knowledge does Amir al-Mu'mineen have? Now, understanding this personality, the knowledge of Amir al-Mu'mineen, that he has this, why would he go towards Aqil to ask him, "Oh, Aqil, tell me about a woman that has been born from this particular lineage of these characteristics"? Why? Question, we have to ask ourselves. Why is it only if he doesn't need, and we know he has knowledge, go towards Aqil? Number one. Number two, what can we analyze from the statement of the purpose behind the marriage of Amir al-Mu'mineen, and what can we be able to apply within our lives when going out and trying to find a spouse? Number three, what word does Amir al-Mu'mineen use within this particular statement that applies to each and every one of us tonight in these difficult times? With everything that's happening around the world, when we begin to feel alone, when we feel not as powerful as we once did, we feel that everything is against us. That we feel that the only salvation is the Imam coming, Ajalla Ta'ala Farajah Sharif. These times of difficulty that you feel alone, what word does Amir al-Mu'mineen use to showcase to us what we can learn from that statement and apply tonight? So inshallah, these three statements will be the ones that we're going to discuss tonight. So I pray that we can bless the majlis and illuminate our hearts. And inshallah, while we recite, come as close as you can towards the front, inshallah, to allow all the others coming out. Let's illuminate our hearts and minds by reciting 3 loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Amir al-Mu'mineen, just to take a note. There's a particular statement, we all know it. You go towards the book of Al-Khisam, and it says, علمني رسول الله ألف باب من العلم يفتح من كل باب ألف باب. Rasulullah has taught me 1,000 doors of knowledge. From every door, it opens to me 1,000 more. Knowledge. أنا مدينة العلم وعلي بابها فمن أراد المدينة فليأتها من بابها. Whomever wants the city of knowledge, let him enter through its gates, which is Amir al-Mu'mineen. Now, understanding these particular notions, that even Amir al-Mu'mineen would know the nights. You know, when you go towards the tradition that says Amir al-Mu'mineen, the 19th of Ramadan, he'd go outside the house, back inside, outside the house, back in, outside. And his daughter, whether it's in the different traditions, Kulthum or Sayeda Zainab, she would say, "Oh, Father, I mean, I see you in a very different notion today. Why is that?" Bihal Anwar, you go towards chapter 42 of Bihal Anwar. It says, these words of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Hiya wallah. It is by Allah the night that Rasulullah foretold me. Which night is that? The night before he is struck. Look at the knowledge of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Why is it that Amir al-Mu'mineen, all of a sudden when he is struck, what's the first words he utters? Fustu wa Rabbil Ka'bah, knowing very well that this strike will lead towards my death. Knowledge. You think Amir didn't have knowledge of lineage? You know that's tradition that we have in Safin. Malik says, and it's a very interesting tradition. Malik says, you know, when in the battlefield, Amir al-Mu'mineen, he has a particular notion. The way that you know Amir al-Mu'mineen has killed someone is he says the following lines. After he strikes someone, straight towards hell, he says, Allahu Akbar. You know when he's struck, he says, Allahu Akbar, that person's gone. So Malik says to himself, you know what, let me start counting how many I killed and how many times I hear Allahu Akbar, yeah? So he says, I'm striking, I am hearing Ali. I'm striking, I'm hearing Ali. So he says, all of a sudden, our paths collided as we raged in the war. As our paths collided, he says, in my mind, I'm thinking, Ali has struck the same amount that I've struck. As in, I have struck the same amount that I've heard everyone say Allahu Akbar. Therefore, we have killed the same number. As they're going past each other, he hasn't said it to Amir al-Mu'mineen. But when he looks at Malik, look at the words that he says. He says, Ya Malik, those that you've killed, you think they're the same those that I've killed? Malik says, I haven't said anything. He says, oh Malik, you know very well, before I strike anyone, I look at his eyes and I see 6 generations down his lineage. If I see one believer, I do not strike him. So you come and tell me a person with that much knowledge of lineage would come towards Aqeel without a purpose? There's a purpose behind it. Comes to his brother, oh my brother, tell me about a lady that has been born to these characteristics of a family. So there are, the scholars come forward and say there are over 10 reasonings of why Amir al-Mu'mineen said it in the open, so people can narrate these particular traditions. The first of which is to showcase to each and every one of us that we all should always refer back towards anyone in a field of expertise. Many of us, in any field, now with the cloudiness of, let's say, the political sphere. This person saying this person saying this person saying, what's going on? Do I refer to a person that has the numbers of followers to give me guidance on my religion and my thought process? The expert in, how to get likes, how to get shares, how to get real reach? Or do I look at a personality with expertise in religion, expertise in the political sphere, expertise of the historical aspects, and we begin to understand that when history repeats itself, what's the next stage? How should we act? How did the people before us act and prosper? How did the people before us act and go down within history? Which expert should I go towards? Amir al Mu'mineen is showcasing to us on the first level that I need to refer to an expert in the field in order for me to reach my goal. Wherever it is, whether it be a spiritual expertise, physical expertise, knowledge expertise, whatever have you, refer back towards the experts. The second of which, the scholars come forward and say, Amir al Mu'mineen stated that in order for people to know very well why he went to marry this particular lady. Because many of us would come forward down the history road, let's say, and we begin to say, if this statement didn't exist, that for whatever reason, Amir al-Mu'mineen married this lady because of her lineage, because she had this particular characteristics, because she was very devout. No. Amir makes it clear, yes, she had characteristics. But because of these characteristics, I made sure that it's through those genes that I can bring forward a personality by the name of Abbas. Because there are many reasons a person gets married. Many reasons. Rasulullah has many traditions that come forward and say, make sure. No such thing as, you have one person that's a soulmate. No such thing as this. Otherwise, why would Rasulullah say, go out and choose a spouse? تخيروا لنطفكم فإن العرق دساس. Choose for your lineage because the genes are hidden. When you go towards Sharh Nahj al-Balagha, Ibn Abi al-Hadid, there's a particular story that's narrated. In the Battle of Jamal, Amir al-Mu'mineen gives the banner to one of his children, the son of Khawla. His name, very famously, Muhammad ibn Hanafiya. He says, I've given him the banner to go forward in the ranks in Jamal. So, in Sharh Nahj al-Balagha, he says that all of a sudden, Muhammad, the son of Amir al-Mu'mineen, and the son of Khawla, one of the wives of Amir al-Mu'mineen. As you know, Amir al-Mu'mineen married 8 others after Fatima al-Zahra. One of them was Khawla, one of them was Ul Baneen, Asma, end of it. But the understanding is, when he goes out, Ibn Abi al-Hadid says, Muhammad returns back. He says, oh my father, can you not see that the arrows have fallen like rain and they have covered the light from the sky? I cannot move forward. There is a bit of fear in my heart lest I get struck. You know what the statement of Amir al-Mu'mineen is in Nahj al-Balagha? أدركك عرق من who? أمك. There is a gene from your mother in you that's making you act in such a manner. Gives the banner towards Imam al-Hasan. He attains that victory in that movement. And he says that is the son of Ali and Fatima. There's a difference. And that's why when we look at particular traditions from Rasulullah, he says, be careful, it could be a good lady. إياكم وخضراء الدمن. So it says, oh Rasulullah, in Fiqh al-Rida, you go towards it. This particular tradition is there. What's خضراء الدمن? It says a good lady in a place that is bad, evil, corrupt. She could be good.
the environment around her where she grew may not be good. Some of the traits would reflect upon her, environmental factors, ethics, genes, traits. It all affects. Make sure that you choose correctly. Now, reasoning behind it was what Amir al-Mu'minin made very clear. So that these characters with my characters can produce someone to assist in Karbala. Now, what word does Amir al-Mu'minin use within this particular line towards Aqil that showcases to us what we need to take from this statement in order for us to be able to apply within these difficult times? He doesn't say so that he can fight alongside his brother. He doesn't say so he can be in Karbala, does he? There's a word that he uses. لينصر الحسين في طف كربلاء. Now, to have a faris, interestingly enough, you can teach to be, a valiant warrior, can't you? Doesn't matter what gene you come from. Obviously, there are advantages of coming from a lineage of warriors, but you can teach nonetheless, can't you? You can teach someone to be a valiant warrior, how to ride a horse, how to strike with the sword. Some stuff you can teach. But there are things that you can't. The reason why Amir al-Mu'minin said it says liyansur. You can have all the characteristics of a valiant warrior, but then there comes another level where you need to make the right choice in Karbala, doesn't it? Many people were brilliant warriors, but they were on the side of 30,000, weren't they? Amazing warriors. Why else would they pay them the big bucks to come forward and fight the Imam? Each one had some sort of incentive and a promise. Mulk al-Ray to this person. Gold and silver, as much as you can carry to another. Just come forward and fight the Imam. So now if I'm looking for the character of Yansur al-Hussein, to support, to make the choice between right and wrong. Hurr ibn Yazid was there, wasn't he? But he was in the other army. Imam praises his mother, doesn't he? What does he say? He says, Inni ukhayyiru nafsi bainal. What's the word? Bainal jannati wal nar. Therefore, there is a choice to be made there in Karbala. It's not enough that I'm a knight or I'm a warrior. I need to ensure that I have the right choices. And that's why when Amir al-Mu'minin comes forward and says, لِيَنصُرَ الْحُسَيْنِ فِي طَفِّ كَرْبَلَاء, the word of Imam al-Hussein when he had no more supporters, what was it? أَلَا مِن نَاصِرٍ يَنصُرُنَا. Is there no one amongst you that can choose right from wrong to be able to support us against the masses? You know what Amir al-Mu'minin says very beautifully, and that applies for each and every one of us today. لا تستوحش طريق الحق لقلة سالكيه. You know what that means? Do not be fearful. Do not feel alone. Do not be afraid of traveling on the path of truth only because there are only a few people on it. Ya Ammar, Rasulullah says, Ya Ammar, إذا سلك علي وادي وسلك الناس واد آخر فاسلك وادي سلكه علي. Now, what does that mean? If Ali goes into a valley and all of humanity take the other valley, what does that mean when you say? Do not be afraid because of how least amount of people follow in the path of truth. Doesn't matter the whole world in another valley. If Amir al-Mu'minin is in a valley by himself, go towards that because in it you will see truth. Why else does he say? علي مع الحق والحق مع علي يدور معه حيثما دار. Truth is with Ali. Ali is with the truth. It revolves around him wherever Ali goes, not where the truth goes. Interestingly enough. And that's why, on an ending note, when we look at the grand picture, why Al Baneen was and is and will remain a beacon for all of us to follow in her footsteps. Just a question. I want you to just really think about this. Why is it that if I was to tell you, you have something that you need to get over the line, something that is troubling you, something of the utmost importance, there is a wall in front of you and there is no other way. So I'm going to perform a nidhr and I say, oh Allah, if you allow this to be successful, allow this to pass, allow that which I want to endure, and I have a nidhr. Now, you have a choice. Let's take an example. One choice is I can gift this nidhr towards a companion that fought alongside Imam al-Hussein. Is very well known by Ahl al-Bayt. Is known as a faqih, by the way. Modern day marja, basically. The Imam would say, ila al-faqih, by the name of Habib ibn Mudahar. Has his own grave in Karbala. All the companions have another grave. He has a grave by himself for all those that have visited Imam al-Hussein. Now, if I tell you, you give that nidhr towards this personality with great stature, or you give the nidhr towards Al Baneen, which one would you choose? I can guarantee you most of us, if not all, will say, I would give the nidhr to Al Baneen because of a high status. But why is that? Why is that? Have you ever thought to ourselves? You know that one of the traditions that I came across, just to showcase to you, Al Baneen, you see, Habib ibn Mudahar, he sacrificed. He had knowledge. He was there when the Imam needed him. He made the difference between good and evil. But he also had his whole life ahead of him. He had his own life. Whereas Al Baneen, her life revolved around Imam al-Hussein. You see the difference? And that's why when we come towards the tradition, when the poet goes out and he says that, oh, Al Baneen, your first has passed, your second has died, your third, your Abbas. What does she say? You've hurt me, but tell me the only person I care about is who? Imam al-Hussein. You see now, her life revolves around her Imam. If we want to be prosperous, how many of us say that our life revolves around our Imam? But we won't even go up and put sadaqah for him when we wake up. We don't say our salams when we wake up. Maybe once, twice a year we have dua nudwa, maybe. Does our life revolve around our Imam? Can we say to ourselves that we're following in the footsteps of Baneen? And that becomes interesting. You come towards traditions. Baneen, you know what the tradition came forward and says? Imam al-Sadiq says this tradition. He says, may Allah have mercy on Baneen. She lost 4 alongside Hussein in Karbala. And look at this next one. Karbala, 61 AH, yeah? Baneen dies, what year did we say? 64 AH. Imam Sadiq says, may Allah have mercy on her. She lost 4 and she went blind from crying over Hussein. Do you see now the love that she had? The level of devotion that she had. I leave you with one tradition before we go towards the Masa'ib. To showcase to us, if we want to be in the footsteps of Baneen, what we need to do. We call ourselves khadim, servants. Baneen, on the day of her marriage, her father brings her towards the door of Amir al-Mu'mineen. I try to imagine this scenario. You're a new bride towards the greatest man after Rasulullah. Just picture that. And you're at the door and you say to him, oh father, I need a word with my husband before you go. Comes towards Imam Ali, oh Amir al-Mu'mineen, I have one request and one request only. Bring forward the children. I have something to ask them. One thing only. As a new bride, what would you ask? Your husband has kids, has wives. She says one thing. It says, my only condition when entering this house is I'm not in this house as a new bride, not a new mother, but that you accept me to be a servant for you in this household. She says, allow me permission to be a servant in this household. A khadimah. Now, if we want to call ourselves khiddam, servants, she raises the bar very high for us, doesn't she? So if we want to be servants for our Imam Sahib al-Asr wa Zaman, let us use Al Baneen as a guideline of how to act, how to be, and how to live our lives. Inshallah, I end at that note and I pass it over to our dear Hajj Muhammad Talib with 3 of your loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.